There'll be somebody else that's a pound of flesh. And McDonald's won't need him no more. Nike won't need him anymore. He's useful now. Invidious distinctions cause us to be envious and jealous of each other. Negative jealousy and envy are diseases of the heart that we're going to have to deal with as a people if we're ever going to move forward. Let me please say this. I know what God has gifted me with as a gift. But that gift does not make me better than one person who sits in front of me or behind me. And if I act like I think that my gift makes me better than you and begin to act like that, then God removes his spirit from me. The only person who can represent me as better than you is the God who made me and the God who made you. And if God said he is my best, then you got to leave it there. I can't say that, but God is well able to say that. Do you understand what I'm saying? All right, now we're at the end. Jesus said, I am the bread of life. If you eat from me, you shall never hunger. When he said that, the people didn't follow him anymore, many of them. But he said that because he represented the law of life, the law of obedience to God. And if you eat from him and obey, you won't hunger. That's wonderful. You won't be subject to your appetites. Muhammad could make the same statement, I'm the bread of life, meaning that God has put the word of life in me. If you obey that word, you won't fall victim to your lower appetites. Saul was a king over Israel. And Saul was told to kill all of a certain people. Don't take no women, no booty, no nothing. Kill it all. And then burn the land. Saul got out there, saw some fine sisters, and saw some gold and stuff. So he killed all right, but he didn't do what God said. So Saul comes back, and Samuel said, hey, why didn't you do what God told you? He said, well, you know, the brothers were working hard. They were fighting. They sacrificed. He said, wait a minute. Obedience is better than sacrifice. And do you know why obedience is better than sacrifice? Because anybody can go in their pocket and give $1. Because most of us try to pay our way through things. We join the church and throw some money up. Reverend Happy. Join the mosque. Here, $5,000. Whoa, that's a good brother. You don't know whether the FBI gave him $5,000, $1,000, and told him give it. He's a good brother. Now, I'd like to close this subject. I don't want anybody to move, because I want to bring this subject right down to today. Now, you think this is a very spiritual subject, but what I really wanted to get to was in the last 20 years, Islam has been in the news almost every day It's Muslims this or Muslims this, Hezbollah this, jihad that. Terms that most of you don't know anything about. Mujahideen. Well, what is all of this for? With the fall of the Iron Curtain, an era in global politics came to an end, as the Western world could no longer define itself in opposition to communism. During the past few years, we have witnessed a return to a previous pattern in which the West seeks its reason for being by placing itself now in opposition to Islam. As it did during the Cold War, the United States portrays itself as the defender of liberty against totalitarian barbarism, but the symbols of evil are no longer taken from the evil empire, which they said was Russia, but the symbols of evil are now taken from the Muslim world. So you have Saddam Hussein and Muammar al-Gaddafi portrayed as megalomaniac gangsters, worthy of some Ian Fleming novel. And they are made to represent Islam in the dichotomy of them versus us. Now, what I'm saying is a part of an introduction to a book written about Louis Farrakhan by an Islamic scholar from Sweden. Years ago, when we used to come to the temple, it would scare us because we would come in the temple and see a blackboard, and on the right looking out, or the left looking in, you saw the American flag on the left and the flag of Islam on the right. And in the middle were these words: which one will survive the war of Armageddon? On the side where there was the American flag, it said Christianity with a cross, slavery, suffering, and death, with a black man hanging on a tree. Under Islam, it had freedom, justice, and equality. Now, when you walk in the temple and saw that blackboard, whoa, these people are anti-American. But what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was showing us was that the final battle for hegemony or control would be between two forces in the world: Islam and the West, represented by America. I want you to hear me now. As was the case during the Cold War, this dichotomy is reflected in popular culture by the movie industry. So in productions such as Not Without My Daughter and True Lies, Muslims replace communists as the scary aliens, the subhuman, merciless incarnations of evil bent on destroying what is good and decent. This is why most of you are afraid of Muslims and Islam and think this is some strange religion from some god in space or somewhere else. Now Hollywood has weighed in the cultural war. Listen now. Defenders of the valuable way of life are justified in exterminating this robot-like enemy who is beyond reason and human emotions. So the link between Arnold Schwarzenegger, which means black nigger, I believe, well, that's what it means. Schwarzenegger, black nigger. So the link between Arnold black nigger, Arab Hunt, The link between Schwarzenegger's Arab Hunt in True Lies and the onslaught on Arab civilians in Operation Desert Storm is obvious. The victims were mere stereotypes, impossible to identify with. CNN blurred the distinction between drama and reality in a war enacted as a live action spectacle in our living room. The reason for returning to the opposition between the West and Islam is due not only to tradition, but to the global ambition of America in the West and Islam in the East. When President Bush proclaimed victory for the New World Order, he was offering a predated vision of global hegemony for the American model of society. Before Nixon died, Nixon said, the enemy of American democracy is not communism, it is fundamentalist Islam. So now the stage has been set for a war against Islam. Listen, a scholar by the name of Akbar Ahmed suggests that instead of the clumsy global classifications of first, second, third world, north, south, east, west, the world map of the 1990s can be divided into two major categories: civilizations that are exploding, reaching out, expanding, bubbling with scientific ideas, economic plans, political ambitions, cultural expressions, and those that are imploding, collapsing on themselves with economic, political, and social crises, which prevent any serious attempts at major initiatives. Though perhaps this is overly simplified, Ahmed's perspective is still illuminative for an understanding of the global trends of the 1990s. The imploding nations are like the Republic of Korea. This is what he writes. Pose no serious threat to the exploding civilizations, but in the present process of shaping a world culture or a global civilization, the American impact is set forth with a self-confident arrogance. The term American is not used here as a national or geographical, but a cultural concept, as its exploding character already transcends nationality and geography. So this writer chooses the term American because the United States is taking the lead in, and English is the lingua franca of a civilization that includes other nations and linguistic roots in the West, East, North, and South. So America has become the symbol of that which opposes Islam. I'm almost there. Give me a little bit, please. This exploding civilization with global ambition is characterized by consumerism, and its cultural impact is felt everywhere we find McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Pizza Hut, CNN, Madonna, MTV, Mickey Mouse, Levi's, and Dallas, and other cultural symbols. America's cultural dominance has a sacred pilgrimage place, Mr. Ahmed notes. As the Vatican is for Catholics, as Mecca is for the Muslims, as Amritsar is for the Sikhs, Disneyland is for the Americans. Unlike Mecca, the Vatican, or Amritsar, Disneyland can be duplicated. There are now two in the United States, one in France and one in Japan, which reveals this civilization's ability to transcend ethnicity and geography, as non-white societies like Japan can align themselves with America through one of this civilization's most powerful bodies, the G7. So beneath the surface of this glimmering consumerism is a belief in liberal democracy, capitalist economy, and secular politics. At its best, it promotes freedom of speech, intellectual pursuits, scientific endeavors, emancipation of women, and individual liberties. Had the self-presented saga of American civilization been the true story, and its advantages been as promised, exclusively intended, its project might have realized the success so arrogantly asserted. But concealed behind ideological ideal images is the backyard of global poverty, racism, sexism, classism, and totalitarian denial of the people's right to self-determination. So the gulf separating professed ideals and experienced reality provides fertile soil for alternative ideologies. Islam is the most rapidly expanding religion in the world, and is presently the only other exploding civilization with global ambitions. But Islam checks unrestrained materialism with spirituality and points to the aforementioned backyard conditions as evidence of the failure of man's self-sufficiency. If this does not work, Islam says, why not try the way of God? Far from a proposal based on a rejection of man's capabilities, Islam believes in man's ability as God's vicegerent to establish a benign society. Islam, the guarantor against poverty, racism, classism, and sexual degradation of women, as complete a vision of civilization as the American, Islam provides an alternative model of democracy, economy, and politics, thereby formulating a true challenge to Bush's New World Order. Now, the reason I cite that is because the attack now is on Islam. Today, you heard from Sani Abacha, a Nigerian head of state who is a Muslim. Today, you heard from Muammar Gaddafi, a head of state who is a Muslim. But Libya is under sanctions. Iraq is under sanctions. Iran is under sanctions. All of these are Muslims. Sudan is under sanctions, or they're trying to embargo. Why are you attacking Muslims? You say, well, they're fundamentalists, they're terrorists. Well, brothers and sisters, we are Muslims. All of you by nature are born to submit your will to do the will of God. Whether you call yourself a Christian or a Hebrew or a nationalist or a Pan-Africanist, at the core of your being, you are created to obey the originator of the heavens and the earth. And everything that you see, you can find those principles that you stand on embodied in the universe of his creation. Now listen, the Nation of Islam has always been a thorn in the side of the rulers of this world. Now they are angry with Elijah Muhammad because, meaning no disrespect, he said white people were devils. Now what did he mean? See, if deceptive intelligence rationalizes disobedience to God, and that is in every human being, God had to make and give form and expression to that deceptive intelligence in a human being, then give that human being power and dominion to deceive the earth and to practice deceptive intelligence. Now look, I'm sorry, I gotta tell it, or God will kill me if I don't tell it. Look, deceptive intelligence. God said, what thou shalt not do, the rulers of this world say is okay. That is deceptive intelligence. The misuse of intelligence to deceive others, to make evil fair seeming. Are you all right? I know I am. God don't like you, sister, with your breasts out. God don't like you with your backside showing. God don't want you to attract man to you in a low-down way. But deceptive intelligence is styling you like a whore and making you love it. Talk back to me, woman. You got a dress on to your thighs. You can't sit down. You constantly squeeze it and pull it. Who styled you like that? And deceptive intelligence makes you rationalize walking in the street like a whore. Talk to me. The enemy says, put on a little see-through with a thong, a string in your backside. Then put something sheer on and sashay down the boulevard and watch men scream and whistle. What justifies you putting that kind of crap on? Deceptive intelligence. Who made that evil fair seeming? Satan. See, I'm not anti-Semitic. I hate anti-Semitism. The fact that anybody would hate somebody else because of their faith tradition is sickening to me. But if you tell me you're a Jew, then you telling me you have an intimate covenant relationship with God. And you're telling me that you have hearkened unto the commandments of God and are obedient unto them. You tell me, when did God tell you it was all right to promote filth and indecency in the name of freedom? You tell me. If the author of Playboy and Hustler and the movies in Hollywood represent the God and they're hearkening to his commandment, tell me, when a man dress up like a woman and a woman like a man, is that obedience to God? How in the hell can you say you're a Jew and do those things? How can you say you're a Christian following Jesus Christ and go along with that? How can you be a preacher for Jesus and won't correct the women or the men in your congregation? A devil has been your master. The government in Washington is not of God. That's a rogue government.
Go ahead. Say it again.
That is a rogue institution. They justify mischief by framing laws. I'm not justified in obeying them. See, you and I today are in the valley of decision. We got to do like Peter did. They forced on him, you can't preach in this man's name. Peter had to come up with it and said, look, shall I obey man or shall I obey God? And I'm asking you today, are you ready to obey God? Are you willing to obey them? Brother Muammar Gaddafi offered the wealth of Libya to help me, to help Arabs, Muslims, and black people and Native Americans to come up out of our condition. What's wrong with that? The minute they heard it in Washington, they went to work to make mischief by making a law and tightening that law, saying Farrakhan can accept no aid from nobody that is considered a rogue nation. Can't do business with them. And then said, if you get any money and we know about it, we're going to charge you with money laundering. Well, to hell with you. Then you charge me because it's time for a showdown.
Go ahead. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
God says, no gambling. Gambling is a device of the devil to divide you. But society says if we can play the lotto, the state can get money to fund education. So they put a noble purpose on an idea that is in contravention to God's instruction.
Saying that your statements, and consequently Mayor Bradley's keeping quiet about your statements until after your speech, proved to be divisive among two people who had been getting along rather well. Your reaction?
Sir, the Jews and the blacks that get along rather well are those Jews and those blacks who have some mutual interest. There is no black-Jewish relationship on a mass level, Jew to black. That's a farce. And the kind of relationship that we have with Jews that I'm very interested in ending is that landlord-tenant relationship, is that we clean your house relationship, is that you are the manager, we are the talent, you are the movie producer, and we are just the actor. We want mutual respect and mutual benefit out of any relationship that we have with Jews or anyone else.
Would you briefly explain the difference between what is considered anti-Semitism and what is considered anti-Zionism?
You know, I think your question should be properly posed to the Jews, for they are the ones that label me as anti-Semitic, but no one ever asked them to define the term. So don't ask me, a black, to define a Jewish-made term, which is really a cloud and a camouflage that they put up every time some black person criticizes some aspect of Jewish misbehavior. I refuse to accept that title. I will criticize Jews or anyone else whom I believe is incorrect in whatever policy they have. And if the Jews want to throw up the smoke screen that I'm anti-Semitic, you that write and call me anti-Semitic, ask the Jews to define that term, then apply that term to what I say.
God is a healer. How many are glad for the healing of Minister Louis Farrakhan? Can we just thank God right now for healing Minister Louis Farrakhan? Come on, give God a great big thank you praise. We thank you, God. We thank you, God. We thank you, God. Come on, let God know how grateful we are for sparing the life of Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Dear supporters of truth, we need 2 million signatures by February 26, 2023. Let's stand together with our black leaders and demand that the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's good name be removed from all hate group listings. To sign our petition, visit change.org/hands off Farrakhan today.